Good day, everyone. I will be the one to report the post-interventions toward agrarian reform. Rehabilitation and rebuilding after the war were focused on providing solutions to the problems of the past. The administration of President Rojas passed Republic Act No. 34 to establish a 70 to 30 sharing arrangement between tenant and landlord, respectively, which focused the interests of landowners, loans to tenant at 6 or less. In Republic Act No. 34 was enacted to establish a 70 to 30 sharing arrangement between tenant and landlord. The 70% of the harvest will go to the person who shouldered the expenses for planting, harvesting, and for the work animals. It also reduced the interest of landowners' loans to tenants at not more than 6%. Under the term of President Elpidio Quirino, the Land Settlement Development Corporation was established to accelerate and expand the resettlement program for peasants. And this agency later on became the National Resettlement and Rehabilitation Administration under the administration of President Ramon Magsaysay. And President Ramon Magsaysay realized that the importance of pursuing a more honest to goodness and reform program. He convinced the elite-controlled Congress to pass several legislation to improve the land reform situation. The Republic Act No. 1199, or the Agricultural Tenancy Act, was passed to govern the relationship between landholders and tenant farmers, protecting the tenurial rights of tenants and enforce tenancy practices. Through this law, the Court Agricultural Relations was created in 1955 to improve tenancy security, fix and rentals of tenanted farms, and resolve land disputes filed by the landowners and peasant organization. The Agricultural Tenancy Commission was also established to administer problems created by tenancy. The Agricultural Credited and Cooperative Financing Administration was also created mainly to provide warehouse facilities and assist farmers in marketing their products. So the purpose of ACCFA, or the Agricultural Credit and Cooperative Financing Administration, is to assist small farmers into cooperative associations to establish an orderly and systemic marketing machinery for and controlled by the small farmers to place agriculture on a basis of economic equality with other industries. NARA, or the National Resettlement and Rehabilitation Administration, accelerated the government's resettlement program and distribution of agricultural land to landless tenants and farmers. It also aimed to convince members of YUKS, a movement of rebels in Central Luzon, to resettle in areas where they could restart their lives as peaceful citizens. So before I end to my part, I want to ask you how the farmers benefited the agrarian reform program of our government, in your own opinion. Because for me, based on my research, the agrarian reform contributed to relieve the unemployment pressure and to increase agricultural production and productivity, although it could not prevent a massive exodus of rural population from the mountains and the most marginal areas. And a major stride in land reform arrived during the term of President Diosdado Macapagal through the Agricultural Land Reform Code, Republic Act No. 3844. The next reporter is Ethan Kayogan.
Good day, everyone. I am Ethan Kayugin, your reporter for today. I will discuss to you the Declaration of Policy under Republic Act Number 3844 or Agricultural Land Reform Code. Section 2, Declaration of Policy. It is the policy of the state. 1. To establish owner cultivatorship and economic family-sized farm as the basis of Philippine agriculture and, as a consequence, divert landlord capital in agriculture to industrial development. So, sa pagtatag ng pagbibigay at pagpapaupa ng mga lupain sa mga tao ang gobyerno. Pwede nila itong sakahan or ipasaka pa sa mga ibang tao. Ito ang naging basihan sa agrikultura ng Pilipinas. But ang consequence nito is yung kapital ng mga nagrerenta ay gagamit sa development ng industry ng bansa. 2. To achieve a dignified existence for the small farmers free from pernicious institutional restraints and practices. Upang bigyan ang mga maliliit na magsasaka ng pagkakataon na makapagsaka ng may kalayaan and without limitations and to work independently. 3. To create a truly viable social and economic structure in agricultural conducive to greater productivity and higher farm incomes. To provide a more agricultural aware advances in the country na maaaring makatulong in our economy, makatulong para mapataas ang income sa mga sakahan. 4. To apply all laborers law equally and without discrimination to both industrial and agricultural wage earners. Para magkaroon ng patas na pagtatalag ng batas ukol sa karapatan ng mga trabahante, and be it in the industry or in the agriculture. 5. To provide a more vigorous and systematic land resettlement program and public land distribution upang mas maipagtibay pa ang mga pagtatalaga ng mga programa ukol sa land settlement at ng public land distribution. 6. To make the small farmers more independent, self-reliant, and responsible citizens and a source of genuine strength in our democratic society. To give a chance sa ating mga maliliit na magsasaka na magkaroon ng kalayaan at sariling desisyon sa pamamalakad ng kanilang mga sariling sakahan and to be the facade of the country's democratic society. This code abolished shared tenancy in the Philippines and prescribed a program to convert tenant farmers to lessees and later on owner cultivators. It is also aimed to free tenants from tenancy and emphasize owner cultivatorship and farmer independence, equity, productivity improvement, and public land distribution. Despite being one of the most comprehensive pieces of land reform legislation ever passed in the Philippines, Congress did not make any effort to come up with a separate bill to fund its implementation, despite the fact that it proved beneficial in the provinces where it was pilot tested. Thank you.
Hello, good day everyone. I am Mark Jan Cavisillas with Megan's Cabaylo. We are about to introduce our topic about agrarian reform efforts under Marcos. The agrarian reform was firstly introduced by President Marcos during the declaration of martial law in 1972, enabling him to essentially wipe out the landlord-dominated Congress through his technocrat. He was able to expand executive power to start a fundamental restructuring of government, including its effort in solving the deep structural problem of the countryside in Presidential Decree Number 27, or the Code of Agrarian Reform of the Philippines, which became the core of the agrarian reform during the Marcos regime.
So this agrarian reform program was designed to uplift the farmers from poverty and ignorance to make them useful, dignified, responsible, and progressive partners in nation building. So this agrarian reform program was a package of services extended to farmers in a form of credit support, infrastructure, farm extension, legal assistance, electrification, and development of rural institutions. So this President Marcos Agrarian Reform Program has five major components: the land tenure program, the institutional development, physical development, the agricultural development, and the human resources. So the main purpose of Presidential Decree 27 is the ordering of emancipation of tenants from the bondage of the soil and transferring to them the land they till. So here I am going to present to you the primary sources of Presidential Decree number 27, October 21, 1972. So first, primary sources is this shall apply to tenant farmers of private agricultural lands primarily devoted to rice and corn under a system of sharecrop or lease tenancy, whether classified as landed estate or not. Next, the tenant farmers, whether in land classified as landed estate or not, shall be deemed owner of a portion constituting a family-sized farm of 5 hectares if not irrigated and 3 hectares if irrigated. Next, in all cases, the landowner may retain an area of not more than 7 hectares if such landowner is cultivating such area or will cultivate it. Presidential Decree number 27 issued on October 21, 1972 applies to tenant farmers of private agricultural lands primarily used for rice and corn cultivation under sharecropping or lease tenancy. It grants tenant farmers ownership of a family-sized farm comprising the 5 hectares for non-irrigated land and 3 hectares for irrigated land. So the landowner is allowed to retain a maximum of 7 hectares for cultivation purposes. For the purpose of determining the cost of the land to be transferred to the tenant farmer pursuant to this decree, the value of the land shall be equivalent to 2.5 times the average harvest of 3 normal crop years immediately preceding the promulgation of this decree. Next, the total cost of the land, including interest at a rate of 6% per annum, shall be paid by the tenant in 15 years of 15 equal annual amortization. In case of default, the amortization due shall be paid by the farmers' cooperative in which the defaulting tenant farmer is a member, with the cooperative having a right of recourse against him. So to determine the land cost transfer to the tenant farmer under this decree, it will be valued at 2.5 times the average harvest of the 3 previous crop years before the decree was being issued. So the tenant will pay the total land cost, including 6% interest per year and 15 equal annual payments over 15 years. If the tenant farmer defaults, the farmer cooperative of which the tenant is a member will pay the overdue amortization and can take action against the defaulting tenant farmer. The government shall guarantee such amortizations with shares of stock in government-owned and government-controlled corporations. No title to the land owned by the tenant farmer under this decree shall be actually issued to a tenant farmer unless and until the tenant farmer has become a full-fledged member of a duly recognized farmers cooperative. Title to land acquired pursuant to this decree or the land reform program of the government shall not be transferable except by hereditary succession or to the government in accordance with the provision of this decree. So the Code of Agrarian Reform and other existing laws and regulations. So the government will guarantee the amortization using shares of stock, government-owned and controlled corporations. So the tenant farmers must become full members of a recognized farmers cooperative to receive the land title. Land acquired through this degree or the government land reform program cannot be transferred except through inheritance or to the government as being outlined in relevant laws and regulations.
For the continuation of the topic, the Department of Agrarian Reform, through its secretary, is hereby empowered to promulgate rules and regulations for the implementation of this decree. The Department of Agrarian Reform program, which is called Operation Land Transfer, which on lands occupied by tenants of more than 7 hectares on rice and corn lands commence, and through legal compulsions and on improved delivery of support service to small farmers. With this program is called Masagana 99, where farmers were able to borrow loans or borrow money from banks and purchase 3 hectares of plots of lands and agricultural inputs. Well, this kind of program has helped many small income or small farmers during the time. However, the landlord class still found ways to circumvent the law. Because only rice lands were the only focus of agrarian reform, some landlords only needed to change crops to be exempted from the program, such as coconut and sugar lands. Lands worked by wage labor were also exempted from the program, so the landed elite only had to evict their tenants and hired workers instead. Due to the said circumstances to acquire the said program, which is only for the lower class or the low-income farmers, the said landlord class or the higher-ups in the agricultural field had find many loopholes in the system, which includes them to change crops so that they can still acquire the said benefits of the program. Landlessness increased, which made it all more difficult for the program to succeed. Because landless peasants were excluded from the program, many other methods were employed by the elite to find a way to maintain their power and dominance, which were worsened by the corruption of Marcos and his cronies who were also involved in the agricultural sector.
The Philippines post-agrarian reform. So the Philippines' long history of agrarian reform has been characterized by instability and violence. 1986 People Power Revolution gave way to the Comprehensive Agrarian Reform Law, or the CARL, was enacted amidst high hopes for democracy and reform. There are two primary justifications for the agrarian reform program. The first is to increase agricultural output efficiency in terms of available land. This is predicted on the idea that smaller farms are more productive than larger farms due to the agrarian revolution. This idea is sometimes defended by the claim that on smaller farms, family labor is more productive than hired labor. Program is also regarded as crucial component in achieving high productivity. So the post-independent era has seen significant changes in the historical progression of the Philippines agrarian reform program. So agriculture has changed from traditional to technologically advanced and modern to a high capital and resource intensive sector. So, however, as compared to the other emerging nations, the Philippines' agricultural sectors continue to have low productivity, as indicated by the value of total output per worker. So, the agricultural sector continues to have the lowest labor productivity when compared to other countries. In addition to the agricultural sector, and significant contribution to the nation's food security, poverty has persisted. So, On June 10, 1988, Republic Act number 6657 an act instituting a comprehensive agrarian reform program to promote social justice and industrialization, providing the mechanism from its implementation and for the other purposes. So, it is the policy of the state to pursue the comprehensive agrarian reform program. The welfare of the landless farmers and farm workers will receive the highest consideration to promote social justice and to move the nation towards sound rural development and industrialization and the establishment of owner cultivatorship of economic sized farms and the basis of the Philippine agriculture. So, the agrarian reform means to redistribution of lands, regardless of the crops or fruits being produced, to farmers and regular farm workers who are landless, irrespective of tenurial agreement, to include the totality of factors and support services designed to lift the economic status of the beneficiaries. So, the basic mechanism envisioned in the executive order to carry out the land redistribution program demanded by the CARP. It is the registration with the government of the all lands falling under the purview of the CARP, purchase of such lands from the respective owners for distribution to landless farmers who cultivate the land, and the capital stock sharing and production sharing of the benefit of farmer workers on corporate land holdings and larger commercial enterprises. So, the executive order number 229. So, providing the mechanisms for the implementations of the comprehensive agrarian reform program. So it is the proclamation number 131 dated on July 22, 1987. The comprehensive agrarian reform program has been instituted. So there is a need to provide for the mechanisms to start the implementation of this program. So in proclamation number 131, the instituting a comprehensive agrarian reform program, we have proclaimed the revival and development of full potential of Philippine agriculture to be an economic priority of our new democracy, so as to provide a firm foundation for the industrialization of our economy and thereby assure the genuine independence of our country. The essential element in any policy of agricultural revival and development is a comprehensive and realistic agrarian reform program. So, realizing these imperatives, the President declared in the 1986 presidential campaign that she would undertake an agrarian reform program, which is our late President Cory Aquino. So, whereas the entire Filipino people, together all government agencies and private organizations, must extend priority, support, and full cooperation to implement this program effectively. So, whereas there is a need for the program to be realistic and flexible in order to succeed, to take account of different from places to places, from community to community, and that no single or rigid prescriptions would be unfairly and wisely applied to all regardless of special features of circumstances, and to be within the present foreseeable capabilities of our nation. That's all. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Arvi Delgado and I'm going to continue the discussion about the Comprehensive Agrarian Reform Program, or the CARP. So CARP under the term of President Aquino. CARP was limited during the administration of Aquino because of the unwillingness of the Congress to fund high compensation costs for the program. It only accomplished 22.5% of land distribution in 6 years, owing to the fact that the Congress was dominated by the landed elite. Ayan. So, it was also the time when a controversy about Aquino, no, seemingly bowed down to the pressure of her relatives by allowing the stock redistribution option. It was also the time wherein Dacian de Luisita reorganized itself into a corporation and nag-distribute sila ng stocks para sa mga farmers. Now, CARP under the term of President Ramos. So under the presidency of Ramos, CARP implementation was speeded up para ma-meet yung 10-year time frame despite of all the limitations, the constraints in funding, logistics, and participation ng mga involved na mga sectors. By 1996, the Department of Agrarian Reform or the DAR distributed only 58.25% of the total area target to be covered ng programang ito. And to address the lack of funding and the dwindling time, no, yung time na spent na kumbaga walang ginagawa for the implementation ng CARP or the Comprehensive Agrarian Reform Program, it was also the time in 1998 wherein Republic Act number 8532 was signed by President Ramos para to amend the Comprehensive Agrarian Reform Law or the CARL and also to extend the program into another 10 years. Ayan, so this is all sa part ko and sa continuation na po sa next na report. Thank you.
So, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone. I am Bernardo James Cambondok, and this is the last topic of Group 2 entitled Carper and the Future Agrarian Reform in the Philippines. So, what is Carper? Carper is short for Comprehensive Agrarian Reform Program Extension with Reforms. Republic Act number 9700 that was signed by the former Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone. I am Bernardo James Gawandok, and this is the last report or the last topic of Group 2 entitled Carper and the Future Agrarian Reform in the Philippines. So what is Carper? Carper is short for Comprehensive Agrarian Reform Program Extension with Reforms. It is a Republic Act number 9700 that was signed by the former President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo on August 7, 2009. It aims to distribute agricultural land to farmers. The new deadline of CARP expired in 2008, leaving 1.2 million farmer beneficiaries and 1.6 hectares of agricultural land to be distributed to farmers. The said Republic Act number 9700, is an mandatory law that extended the deadline to 5 more years. So CARP and CARPER is the same. The only difference is that the CARPER is extended for 5 years. So Section 3 of the law also mandates that any case or proceeding involving the implementation of the provision of CARP as amended, which may remain pending on June 2014, should be allowed to proceed its finality and executed even beyond such date. So even if the Republic Act number 9700 expired, the distribution of land to the farmers will continue. So from 2009 to 2014, CARPER has distributed a total of 1 million hectares of land to 900,000 beneficiaries. 500,000 hectares of land remain undistributed. So why do you think is the problem? We will know on the next slide. But before that, Department of Agrarian Reform or DAR and Department of Environment and Natural Resources or DENR are government agencies mandated to fulfill CARP and CARPER. So these two are the problems. It is the same problem have plagued its implementation. First is the powerful landed elites It is possible that they did not cooperate with the government, hence creating the problem. Next is ineffectual bureaucracy of the Philippine government. It it also it also means that the government officials or politician responsible for the carper is not competent enough, or they lack resources or manpower to perform their duties and responsibilities successfully. And because of that reason, there is an advocacy campaign on carper that happens in June 3, 2013, and the farmers want the government to have a proper implementation of carper because some of the beneficiaries did not get the land that was for them. Until these two challenges are surmounted or overcome, genuine agrarian reform in the Philippines remain but a dream to Filipino farmers who have been fighting for their right to land ownership for centuries. So that is why it is very important that we should vote for government officials or politicians that are competent enough and have appreciation or give importance to our farmers, because they deserve to have a land to plant on, because without them we don't have we can't have any food to eat right now. So that's the end of the report of group 2. I hope you learned something, and good luck to our upcoming exam. Thank you.